you so much. What a beautiful reception. We appreciate this so much.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, Ladies and Gentlemen, herzlich willkommen an der Volkshochschule Ottakring. Mein Name ist Thomas Leimer. Ich darf Sie recht herzlich an unserem Haus begrüßen. Ottakring, or with an American accent, Ottakring, sounds, und ich zitiere, a little bit like a Klingon family name. I think that is from you. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, wenn Sie mehr über Klingonisch oder Englisch oder amerikanisches Englisch lernen möchten, dann darf ich Sie jetzt schon recht herzlich einladen, sich nach der Veranstaltung für einen Klingonisch-Kurs zu interessieren. Wir nehmen gerne Ihre Daten auf und informieren Sie. Und jetzt darf ich den Geschäftsführer der Wiener Volkshochschulen, Herbert Schweiger, auf die Bühne bitten, um seine eröffnenden Worte. Einen schönen Abend.
Einen schönen guten Abend. Ich freue mich, dass so viele von Ihnen hergefunden haben. Das war auch der Grund, warum es so lange gedauert hat, dass wir heute anfangen konnten, weil draußen noch die Schlangen gestanden sind. Danke, Trekkis, muss ich sagen. Ich glaube, es ist nicht nur das Thema der Veranstaltung, das selbstverständlich ein tolles Thema ist, aber es ist vor allem, glaube ich auch, sind das unsere Gäste, Masterson und Max Grodenchik, die heute auf unserem Planeten, auf unserem kleinen, auf ihrer Reise durch unbekannte Welten, die noch niemals ein Mensch zuvor gesehen hat, auch hierher gefunden haben. Ich muss mich entschuldigen, mein Englisch ist ganz, ganz schlecht, so wie mein Klingonisch. Ich muss aber sagen, es wird sogar in den Volkshochschulen wirklich Klingonisch gesprochen. Sie haben ja, ich war ja auch als Klingone heute schon anwesend auf der Leinwand mit Werner Gruber, dem Physiker der Nation. Und der redet wirklich Klingonisch und die reden aber, wenn ich es nicht verstehe, reden sie untereinander Klingonisch im Planetarium. Gut. Ich möchte es wirklich kurz machen. Ich möchte mir einfach meiner Freude Ausdruck geben, dass Sie so viele von Ihnen hergefunden haben. Es ist ein bezaubernder Saal hier. Ich finde, die Atmosphäre ist auch super. Es hat auch so ein bisschen was Klingonisches. Nichtsdestotrotz, wir werden ja jetzt im nächsten Jahr beginnen, unsere Häuser zu renovieren, dank der Stadt Wien, die uns da 75 Millionen zur Verfügung gestellt haben, dass wir alle Häuser, die im Besitz der Stadt sind, herrichten können, und das wird das erste Haus sein, das wir renovieren werden. Das ist auch Zukunft. Wenn wir bei der Zukunft sind, das ist ja sozusagen die dritte Staffel in unserer Digitalisierungsreihe von den Wiener Volkshochschulen. Digitalisierung, schöne, neue Welt, wie wir es genannt haben, wo wir uns versuchen, über verschiedene Zugänge dem Thema Digitalisierung zu nennen. Die positiven wie auch die befürchteten negativen Auswirkungen auszuleuchten, Kurse anzubieten, wo man selbst quasi in die Digitalisierung mittun kann, aber auch Kurse anzubieten und Veranstaltungen, wo man sich auch kritisch mit der Digitalisierung auseinandersetzen. Und dass wir das auch mit einem gewissen Augenzwinkern tun können, ist, glaube ich, ein Beweis der heutigen Veranstaltung. Ich glaube, das ist für viele nicht typisch Volkshochschule, für mich ist es typisch Volkshochschule geworden mit der Zeit. Und ich finde es wirklich toll. Ich möchte mich auch ganz besonders beim Stefan Jaksch bedanken, der diese ganze Veranstaltungsserie aufgezogen hat und sich wirklich bemüht hat, ihr was Tolles zu bieten, was ihm, glaube ich, heute ganz besonders gelungen ist. Danke, Stefan. Und jetzt möchte ich noch auf zwei Veranstaltungen hinweisen, die in diesem Zyklus noch laufen, in dieser Reihe. Die eine ist am 20.11. in der Wiener Urania, und da geht es so quasi um soziale Utopien, glaube ich. Und wenn es noch ein bisschen die Dreckseite aussprechen will, am 26.11. gibt es in Wien-Meidling in der VHS eine Veranstaltung wieder mit Star Trek, wo auch die sozialen Utopien, die dort gezeigt werden, wir schauen uns dann gemeinsam Videos an und analysieren so quasi die sozialen Utopien. Also vielleicht für einige von euch, die nochmal drauf sein wollen auf dem Thema, ganz super, 26.11. In diesem Sinne gebe ich jetzt die Bühne frei für die wirklichen Stars dieser heutigen Abend. Schönen Dank fürs Kommen.
Okay, I am switching to English because German, the language of guilt, not for today. There's some chicken going into a UFO. So thank you so much for the wonderful introductions, and thank you for the big boss, for the big shout out. Indeed, next week on the 20th of November, I will be giving a talk about utopia from a more theoretical perspective, and I also picked 3 of my favorite Star Trek episodes for the weeks that are coming after that to debate them. And the big question is like, who am I? Because I'm the least person you want to hear talk right now. But still a little bit of a backstory why I'm here, because I kind of co-curated the whole thing. And my story is probably not a typical story of someone who lives in Austria and is a science fiction nerd, but maybe. So first of all, Ottakring, yes. And that's me. My name is Johannes Grenzfurthner, that's also very Klingon, and I'm part of an art collective called Monochrome. I founded it long time ago, and I'm still part of it, and I'm from Austria. I mean, you probably enjoy Austria, but the problem with Austria is like most of the time you can facepalm and double facepalm about it, because there's so much weird shit going on, but still, I'm kind of still proud of being one. I'm an artist and a filmmaker, I'm a technologist, and I'm a consultant and sometimes insultant, because you have to insult people so they listen to you. And I'm a nerd. And how many of you are nerds? Yeah, yes, absolutely, yes. And I grew up in the time in Austria when there was no term for us. Nerd, of course, is an American term, an American slang term, and it came up in the early 90s in Austria. And before that, I don't know, I was just like some weirdo, you know? So I laugh about stuff like this, you know? I don't know if anyone laughs about this, but I laugh about it, yeah? And about stuff like this, do what you love and you'll work super fucking hard and all the time with no separation or any boundaries, and also take everything extremely personally. Yeah, I guess I'm an artist, yeah? And art is a very interesting thing for me. It's a very special place for very special people in a really bad font. And the problem I have with art, although I'm an artist, is that people do not, like artists are hardly reaching people out there. So art is its special little place in a gallery somewhere. And that's why, although I'm an artist and I like taking money for art funding and all that stuff, yeah, the main problem and what I really like and what I'm really into it is popular culture. Because popular culture is where you can actually really change something. It's where like suddenly all of you are sitting here because we want to talk about Star Trek with our superstars here. So what I'm interested in is context hacking, because it's really important to think about the context of a project, and I always like to hack it. That means it's like, how can we use something, for example, a television series, to spread information about ethics or politics or morality or something like that. I think Star Trek is one of the biggest context hacks that was ever created. There's always a way to get a message across. Sometimes you need many adapters to do that. Yeah? It's hard, but we have to try. Yeah? So, and because utopia is the big theme of the next 5 evenings, including the evening today, I'm very much interested in utopia, because I'm a fucking leftist and I want to create a wonderful, beautiful utopia for me. So what can we do? In 1966, Star Trek aired for the first time. Yes! And it presented a wonderful utopia in a way that was not presented before that. And sometimes people die, you know, that's what you do. Yeah. And yeah, clap for all the dead red shirts. And I see a couple here. Like, be careful when you go to the bathroom, don't slip, don't hit your head on the bathroom or something. careful. Yeah, so in 1975, I was born. So I was the generation that did not grow up on Star Trek the first time it was aired. It was aired in Austria and Germany in the early 70s, but I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s. That was a very important thing for me, and I liked stuff like Captain Future. I'm not sure if you still remember Captain Future, but the really important shit was, of course, Raumschiff Enterprise Wiederholungen. Yeah? And I always felt lost because I always would see the reruns and I wanted to see like the new thing, yeah? And stuff like that. I wanted to see more of that, you know? That's actually that's called Weltraumfieber in the German version. You know that story about it, I guess, yeah? It's the story where, because that ZDF actually ordered a children's TV show for, so they wanted Raumschiff Enterprise to be for the children's afternoon program. So they did a lot of stuff with it that was not in the original. They put jokes in it and stuff like that. For example, there's the one thing when Captain Kirk, Jesus Christ. Captain Kirk is insulted by a Klingon. The Klingon calls him a parfümierte Blutwurst. I'm not sure if you remember that. That's not in the original. So he's not being called a perfumed blood sausage. No, he's not. That is because they thought like, we'll put a couple of jokes in for the kids. So that's how Raumschiff Enterprise was created. And of course, there could not be a television episode about Spock being horny. So they called it Weltraumfieber, so he had space fever suddenly, because there cannot be sex in the Vulcan Empire or something like that. So that's the backstory that some people don't even know. Anyhow, that's me. And when I was 9, and you might see I'm not a red shirt. And in 1986, I was 11 years old. That was a kind of a bad year because Challenger blew up, Chernobyl blew up, and Hydra came into power. Horrible things, a bad year for modernity. But at the same time, it was the year when I got interested in political science fiction, in science fiction that somehow dealt with the future of the human race. Cyberpunk, Neuromancer, also stuff came out like RoboCop, so really harsh critique and also funny satires of how the future will be if we keep going on in the shitty ways that we are doing. Like RoboCop is pretty much about the Reagan era, a film about what Reagan would do to the future, and he kind of did. And so I was very interested in that. I got my first computer, and then suddenly a new series came out, and it was my series. It was the one series that I could finally embrace. Next Generation came out, and I sort of got mind blown completely. Yeah? And still my reaction when someone says they don't like Star Trek. It's like, I'm very sad. I feel personally, not attacked, but I feel personally shamed by that. But in 1989, one of the big utopias, or not real utopias, crashed, and I met Chris Lohner. That's a different thing. I was 14 when what was called communism collapsed. I mean, it was never real communism, it was bureaucratic collectivism, but still it was a major fuck up, it was a big fail. And still I was looking for, so what could the future be? I became a punk, looked like this, and still I had this longing of changing the future, but still it was already the time for the next utopia out there, and it was the utopia that those wonderful humans and humanoids were part of. It was Deep Space Nine. And Deep Space Nine was very important for me because it's a very gritty Star Wars. It's a Star Wars about the real, the utopia is there, but it's also not there. And we still have to remind ourselves to fight for all the things. We have to fight for 8-hour work days and not 12 shitty work, you know, and all that stuff. Deep Space Nine reminds us that even in the utopia of Star Trek, there are dark places, and we have to talk about them, especially in Austria. I mean, talking about Bajor and talking about the Cardassians and thinking about Austrian history, of course there are many connections in there. So fast forward, 2019, in papyrus font, by the way, 3 people that like my memes, me and Mark Zuckerberg stealing my data. That's the present. That's the present, the future, the wonderful future that we have been promised. It's a future where we have to fight for Worf, like make Worf whole again and all that stuff. But so what I'm saying about is there are lots of internal debates in the Star Trek fandom about new Star Trek products coming out, etc., etc. Although we should actually talk about the Borg arriving. Yeah. So that's what we should talk about, of Mr. Borg Trump. Yeah? And I hope we will be able to talk a little bit about all of that, about utopia, about dystopia, about making wonderful TV series for the public, and not having to think about what wine pairs best with living in a dystopian nightmare. We want to finally remember that there is one wonderful thing that Marx said, and Marx has this categorical imperative, and the categorical imperative by Marx says that we have to overthrow all conditions in which man or woman is a degraded, enslaved, neglected, and despicable being, and that should pretty much be all our imperatives. And the phenomenon Star Trek is working on that. We are working on the idea of like presenting a wonderful future and trying to live it even nowadays, although it's not here. So a big applause for Chase Masterson and Max Grodenchik.
Johannes Grenzfurthner.
Who are...
Good job.
Thank you. And so...
That was great.
Thank you. So, and here I am. So... I'm switching from the meme mode to the sitting mode. And so it's so wonderful that we have so many fans here, and it's wonderful to see both of you. I see you more often than I see you, because you actually live in Austria, in Nussbach bei Kirchdorf an der Krems. So this is... And... which is...
Go Walnüsse, yeah.
Go Walnüsse, yes. Which is completely wonderful, because we know each other now for like almost 10 years or something like that, because a common friend, Jeff Ricketts, who was on Buffy the Vampire Slayer and also on Firefly, 2x2 Hands of Blue. And so Jeff Ricketts is a good friend of mine, and he was part of one of my theater plays, and he told me, next time you are going to LA, you have to meet Max. He's a really good friend of mine. Go and grab a coffee in Glendale and talk to him. And suddenly I'm sitting there in LA having coffee with Max Grodenchik and realizing, oh, it's that Max Grodenchik. Of course, there are not that many Max Grodenchiks out there, I assume. But and then a couple of years later, after frequent conversations and you even be part of some of my film projects, you suddenly tell me, oh, you are in, you live now, you have a baby daughter, you live with your Austrian wife in Oberösterreich. How wonderful.
This is true. Yeah.
How wonderful. Max. And because of you, I learned to know Chase just like a year ago, which is not that it feels like 10 years or something like that.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
I learned to know
In the
you
meantime,
too,
we made a film together that is not released yet. Next year, we can talk about it a little bit later. But it's wonderful to have you back in Vienna, because our group Monochrome invited you to be our artist in residence at the Museums Quarter in Vienna to work on one of your social projects. And we can actually talk about also that, because that's very much about the deep core of Star Trek and the deep core of politics and empathy and being social with other people.
Thank you,
so,
yes.
So how do I start a conversation like that? I think if I'm with you, then I stay with you.
Go ahead,
and,
yeah, thank you.
So talking about utopia and talking about Star Trek, for me it was very important to see that. To see like an interesting future that is not the gritty future that you are used from science fiction films, but it's a future where stuff is actually good, and where we actually want to go. How did you actually got like, when did you learn about Star Trek? Did you also grow up with Star Trek? Did you enjoy watching it as I did when I was a kid before ending up playing a role on Star Trek?
That's a wonderful question. I just really first want to say again what a treat it is, what a pleasure it is to have you all here. I'm always surprised and delighted when I see so many people turning up for us. I mean, our show, right, Max? Our show was over 20 years ago. And it's really such an honor to have you here. I really want to say that first. Yes, I've always loved Star Trek, although I didn't know the heart of it like I know it since I've been on the show. One of my first memories was watching reruns of the original series in my little house where we lived in Indiana, and I did a convention there years later, many years later, and I had to go back to that kitchen because I was in Indiana, in Indianapolis for a convention, and I thought, well, this is really incredibly full circle that I first watched the show here, and now I'm here. So I went and I bought some candy and I knocked on the door of that house and I said, "Hi, I'm sorry to bother you, but this is a very special place to me and I used to live here and could I just say hello?" And they invited me inside and I saw that kitchen where I first watched Star Trek. Is that silly? It's really silly, isn't it? They'd be like, "Who are you, lady?"
I mean, but the wonderful thing about Star Trek is that it's a very nostalgic thing, yes, because it's going on for decades and decades, but at the same time, it's also something new all the time because new series come out and...
It's a really good point. And then I just have to tell you, so I watched Next Generation when it was first run because I had a boyfriend who was such a Trekkie that I was only allowed to call him during commercials. Okay? So I had to watch the show so I could know when to call. And I started to love Star Trek because of this. And I started to really understand the depth and the rich meaning and how, you know, Roddenberry set up a really beautiful idea of the future. And I started to... So Deep Space Nine, sorry to go on, but Deep Space Nine was the one show that I really prayed to be on because I thought how incredible that there is this audience that you get to know, you get to meet the people that really make the show possible, which is you guys, and to be part of these incredible stories. So being on DS9 was a dream come true.
So, and another question for you would be, so Star Trek or being in the limelight or like suddenly having many people all over the planet knowing you was, I mean, that can be like a double-sided, you know, like coin. It's kind of like there can be good and bad aspects of living a life as a celebrity, so to speak. Yeah, but I know that you took that energy, so to speak, to harvest the energy, the positive energy for one of your projects. And could you tell us about that?
Thank you. Well, so before I was on Star Trek, I was living in Los Angeles and working day jobs. And one of the things that I was doing in every spare moment was I was working on a charity project for children with AIDS. It was a charity called Caring for Babies with AIDS, and we were doing a fundraiser. And I loved working on this show, on this charity so much. I had a car that was in such bad shape you could turn it on, but then you couldn't turn it off because otherwise you couldn't turn it on again for a really long time. So I would drive up to where this is important, okay, I would just have to tell you. So I'd drive up to where we're working on this charity for these kids, and I would leave my car running while I was working in there, and they were like, "Chase, do you want to go, is that your car running outside?" And I would be like, "Yeah." And they'd say, "Do you want to turn it off?" And I would be like, "No." So I had to leave the project because I couldn't even take care of myself. But then, when I got Star Trek, I was able to come back and say, "Hey, I'm back, and look who I brought with me." And so back in those days, we had fan clubs, and my fan club was the largest private contributor, became the largest private contributor for this same charity for children with AIDS. So it really was an incredible full circle to get to really use these stories for making real world good. And then I turned that into my own charity later, which I can tell you about later. I don't want to go on. Ask Max something. Okay.
Max, you grew up in New York, in Queens, as far as I know, and your brother is even in politics there, as far as I understand. So, like, because he was so afraid, don't talk to me about politics, and it's like, but we can talk about your brother. But no, I don't force you to talk about your brother. But how was your first contact to Star Trek? Did you see Star Trek when you were young, or what was that?
Well, I like the way you fit first contact into that sentence. Not too shabby. Not too shabby.
Yeah. That's why he's Johannes Grenzfurthner.
My first contact with Star Trek was I knew about it because I knew other kids were watching it when I was growing up. But I couldn't watch it because we didn't have, what is it, DVRs. We didn't have video cassettes. My father and I were watching something else, and so you could only watch one thing at a time. So, and we only had one TV at that time. Not that we were poor. I think most people only had one TV. So kids would come into school and talk about it, and I'd wondered what that was, but it was more important to watch the show with my father. Whatever that other show was. So I didn't, I started, I went along this acting path, and I wound up in Hollywood, and my agent called me one day and said, they want you to read for Star Trek: The Next Generation. And I said, before that, then it wasn't real. She said, yeah, it's the role of a Ferengi. I said, what's a Ferengi? She said, go pick up the sides. Do you remember going to studios to pick up sides? Yeah. Nowadays, it's all on computer, it's all email.
It's like a lot.
You just have to drive across town and pick up stuff. Where was I?
Okay, so you were offered a role of a Ferengi.
I'm on a roll.
Okay.
I wasn't really on a roll. I was just saying that. So yeah, she said, go pick up the sides. So the material, it's actually a German word, Seite, sides. Yeah, it's the pages from the script that you're going to read at the audition. And I got them, and I still didn't understand anything. And my roommate looked at them. My roommate was the only one of two science fiction fans that I knew. Uh-huh. And I said, Daryl, what do I do with this? And he started to read, and he went, and he started to imitate the original, the Ferengi from that first last Outpost episode, seventh episode of the first season of The Next Generation. Armin was one of those guys with the whips. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, they got rid of the whips pretty
right
fast.
Away. Yeah. Armin hated the whips. I thought it was great. I thought they were so out there. I asked him what a Ferengi was. He gave me his impression. I called my brother, the politician, and said, "This is what Daryl is saying a Ferengi is. What do you think?" And he said pretty much the same thing. And I went into audition and I read the sides. And when I was done, I said, "I'm not sure what a Ferengi is, but this is what my brother and my roommate told me a Ferengi is." And that's how I did the audition. And when I was done, someone yelled out, "Tell those two guys we may have jobs for them." It's true. It's true. So,
Nice.
it's true. I think it was Chip Chalmers. You know Chip Chalmers?
Yes, I know Chip Chalmers. Oh my gosh.
I think it was Chip Chalmers. He
Director, right?
directed the episode.
Yeah.
Oh, and you know who wrote that episode? His first solo writing credit, Ira Stephen Bear.
Oh my
Who
goodness.
became like the big person behind
Big deal.
The executive producer of DS9. And
We
really,
love you, Ira.
Yeah, we do. Well, he's not in heaven.
Well, no, I didn't mean it like that.
Don't jinx
Yeah,
it.
we love you, Ira. I know, we love you, Ira.
But he could be on the third floor watching.
Sorry, yeah, that's what I meant. I'm sorry.
He will probably remind you to sell DVDs of the documentary.
Totally would, yeah.
Yeah. He would do that.
That's how I came into touch with, in contact with Star Trek, and they were fitting me for the head and for a wardrobe, and one of the assistant directors was taking me around the lot, showing me where things were. This is wardrobe, this is makeup, and Patrick Stewart. It was a very sunny day in January. It was an extraordinarily nice day for a January day, although a lot of days in Los Angeles are like that. And the cast was hanging out outside, and Patrick Stewart was there. He said, "Let me introduce you." She said, "Let me introduce you to Patrick, because you're going to be working closely with him." And Patrick said, "Max, have you ever done makeup like that before?" I said, "No, no, no." He said, "It's going to be a very difficult week for you. If you need anything, have your request come through me. I seem to have some clout around here."
Wow.
And no star of a series ever talked to me like that.
That's really nice.
That was.
Patrick said that?
Patrick Stewart said that to me. Yeah. So, anyway.
So, and was he right about, because, I mean, the good thing about the Ferengi is they look really alien, like even in a very alien-dominated society like the Federation. But most aliens on Star Trek, I guess because of budget reasons, have just like stuff glued to their forehead. In your case, he had the whole... You had like a real, like very extensive
Do you
makeup.
think the Academy Award-winning head of Star Trek makeup, Michael Westmore, comes into the trailer and says, "Just glue some rubber on his head there"? Do you think?
Yes, I think.
Do you think that's how it's done? Academy Award winner for the movie with Cher, Mask, I think. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where were we?
Oh, we were that, like, I mean, you were a regular on Deep Space Nine as a Ferengi for the entire. I mean, you ended up as the Grand Nagus. I mean, Jesus Christ, yeah.
Is that how you pronounce it in Austrian, Nagus?
I think, yeah. In Austrian, we also say Rückkehr der Jedi-Ritter. Jedi are Jedis here and stuff like that.
What?
Jedi.
Yedi.
Not Jedi.
Jedi?
Jedi. Stuff like that. And it's horrible. It's like it's a different world.
All right.
I was, like Chase, a recurring character. We had a lot of recurring characters, like
you had to
Gul Dukat, Goldemar, a lot of gulls we had.
The gulls, yeah, all
All the gulls.
Penny Johnson, who played Cisco's wife. Did they get married? Wife and
right?
So many recurring characters.
Yeah, and
Keiko,
which is, I guess, one
Molly.
of the best things about Deep Space Nine, that recurring characters like your characters become so important. At some points, characters like Cisco are not that important in certain episodes than you guys, which is like wonderful.
They did a lot of development of the smaller characters. I think that's what made the space station feel alive.
Yeah. Wonderful. So did you, like, at one point, did you think of like, oh my God, another day of having to be in makeup for like 5 hours or something? I don't know.
You have a great story about getting in makeup quickly. You have to tell that story.
You know, when you want something, and Patrick the first week was saying, "I think they're going to have you back again." When you want it, you know, put on that makeup. Let's put on that makeup. Come on, let's do it. And then when you get what you want, and after 3-4 seasons, you realize you're an important part of the show. Do we have to put on the makeup right now? You know, I don't know if that's human nature or just Max nature, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, sitting for 3 hours is not great, but it's, you know,
I can't
not a bad
complain.
job, right?
I can't complain.
And didn't you even have like dentures and stuff like that?
Yeah, teeth. Yeah.
Oh my God, you have fake teeth. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but the teeth you can take out.
Yeah.
They fit over your real teeth, and you could take them out, put them back in, but you can't take that rubber head off. That's tough.
Rubber butt head.
Yeah.
Tell them about putting your makeup on, and so when they did it quickly, when Karen had to have
Why
some
did
help.
that happen? They gave me the wrong call time. I think
Right.
I think I had to be in at 4:30, and they put 5:30. So they needed me to rehearse the scene, and they were panicking. And what do we do? What do we do? So we had Jill Rockow on one side of me. Each makeup artist did half of my face, and. That's what I remember.
And they got it down to.
This was when the makeup took 3 hours.
Right.
Makeup took 3 hours. The two of them did it in 51 minutes. And I came back the next day and I said, if two of you guys can do it in 51 minutes, if you extrapolate that, 3 of you can do it in 14 minutes. And the whole gang, 4 of them, working at the same time, can have me done in -5 minutes. They would actually, so for a 4:30 call, I could show up at 4:35, and so and still be on time.
Easy, yeah.
That's a temporal anomaly. Right there. And you could end up in 1947 in Roswell or something like that. So be careful.
That is beautiful. I have a good story about being in the hair trailer when Avery Brooks was in there. Can I tell you?
What is the hair trailer?
So, well, we have the makeup trailer and then we have the hair trailer, right?
The hair trailer is just like making hair makeup or something.
Right, hair. Where you go and you get your hair done. What Avery was doing in the hair trailer, I don't know.
But
Buffing, plucking, I don't want to think about it. Ew.
Just like this.
Right. So this is I don't know, you might have heard this story before. I'm sure you've heard it, Max, but my Kathy story. Okay, so I'm in the hair trailer at 4:30 in the morning. It's my very first day, which I thought was my only day because I didn't know I was going to recur. I thought it was just that one episode. So, is this okay if I just jump in here? Okay, so I'm in the hair trailer. It's 4:30 in the morning. The popular time to be called. So Avery is in the hair trailer, and I am so excited to be on the show on my episode, which I thought was my only episode, and I was a little too perky. And I said to the hair lady, "Okay, bye, hair lady. Thank you so much for doing my hair, and I'm going to go to makeup, and then they're going to put on my makeup, and then I'm going to go come back, and you can unroll my hair and put on my costume, and I'm going to be on the show. Bye, Mr. Brooks." And he looks at me, and he says, "Goodbye, Kathy." And I said, no, I'm not Kathy. My name's Chase Masterson. I play the role of Leeta, and it's so nice to meet you, and you're the star. And he looks at me and he says, "See you later, Kathy." And I said, no, I'm not Kathy. My name is Chase. I play Leeta. I auditioned for the role of Marta, and I didn't get it, but that's okay because I got this one, and I'm so excited to meet you, Mr. Brooks. And I'm not Kathy. I never even played a Kathy. And he looks at me, and he says, in his one long, hard Avery Brooks look at me, and he says, "Nordic Track." So I had done a Nordic Track infomercial years before, playing the sales girl Kathy. And here, my first day on the show, which was my only day, Avery Brooks, the star, is reminding me of it. How embarrassing. Well, I took one long, hard Chase Masterson look at him, and I said, "Avery, I got paid for doing it. What's your excuse for watching it?" Get a life, Avery.
They make it hard for you to skip in the meantime, it's a different way of making money, I guess. But anyhow, there is because yeah, sure.
Just so you know, the 3-hour makeup we had. I believe when Cisco was bald, he still had an hour for hair. So the 3 hours is not, it's a little loose, I would say.
Which makes it not bad because then you're like at lunch before you're even on the set working. Because lunch is 5 hours after call time. It's so weird. It's just weird. It's not even real. It's just weird. For us too, it's weird.
But I mean, thinking back at the time, how you grew together, I guess, as a community of Deep Space Nine. So how many of the people that you work together with are you still working with or have contacts to? So are there still bonds after 20 years? I mean, in your case, it's quite obvious because you worked so close to each other and you were married in the episode as characters and all that stuff. But, I mean, are there other members that you see on a frequent basis or work together with?
Mostly Max.
Oh.
I met with Max and his wife last week here in Vienna. We went to a wonderful restaurant and then went and raided the Lindt store. It was nice.
We did. That was a really nice night. That was a really nice night, yeah. I knew you before Star Trek, though.
Yes, tell him.
I'm going to see Janet Chamberlain next week. I'm going to sleep on her sofa, actually. Yeah, I'm going to Los Angeles. And Janet Chamberlain, one of my two best friends in the world, and wrote a play way back when. What year? 93 maybe, something like that. And I went to see it. The lead role in that play was played by Chase Masterson. So that's how I knew you.
It's such a small world, isn't it?
Really.
It really is. And this was at a little theater in Silver Lake, which is, I don't know, not in the center of Los Angeles. It's just a little place. And I just had auditioned through Mary Lou Belli, who you know, right? I'm sorry, guys. Just give us a minute. But you know, can I also tell you about just it being a small world? So we met back then, right? Before we knew that we were playing opposite each other. And then we were on the show for 2 years together before they put Ram and Leeta together, right? And at that point, tell them the story about when Ira told you about Ram and Leeta.
Oh, you know, I would. I get the feeling that we're supposed to be more serious, though.
Right now?
What?
Are we?
We're not serious.
Are you looking at me?
We're not serious. We're never serious. Never.
This is we're supposed to be, you know, technology and.
We'll be serious later. Okay, we'll be serious later.
I have a super serious question coming up, but now please tell us whatever you want to hear from him because it's probably nice.
So when Ira told you that Ram and Leeta were going to get together.
That's walking. I can't do that sitting down.
Okay, you could stand.
No, I'll try.
You could walk.
No, we were on at Quark's bar, and Ira Stephen Bear, who has been mentioned earlier tonight, said to me, I'm in my Ram makeup. Armin is doing something as Quark. I don't know what he's doing, but he said, come with me for a walk, and we strolled down the promenade. And I thought I was he put his arm around me, and I thought I was getting fired.
I didn't know that.
And I didn't want to make a big scene if I got fired. You can take your rubber and screw you. Moogie. And Ira said, we're giving Leeta to Ram. I had a head on and ears, and it's very hard to hear. And I wanted to make sure he didn't say you're fired. So I said, what? He said, we're giving Leeta to Ram.
Giving.
It sounds very creepy, actually.
It sounds really creepy.
And I said, you're giving Leeta to Ram? He said, yes. I said, why? Very quickly, I followed that why up with, thank you.
Very nice.
And he said, Leeta is with Bashir now. But Bashir, a lot of the women who watch the show like Bashir, so we want to keep him single. I said, is there a compliment for me in there somewhere? But one of the greatest things that happened to me. One of the greatest things that
Not
happened.
Me too.
not being fired.
What?
Not being fired.
Not being
Not
fired.
being fired, that helps.
But actually, that might lead into the serious question, because the wonderful guys at VHS like asked me to curate 3 episodes of Star Trek, of different Star Trek universes to screen in the next weeks, and I'll definitely, of course, pick one episode of Deep Space Nine, and the episode I'm going to pick is Bar Association, which is one of the best ones talking about politics and talking about, because I mean, it is a mainstream American television series that has an entire episode dedicated why we need unions, and that you are creating a union because you fight up, which is also very important for your character, because in the end you quit at the bar and you start working for the space station and all that stuff. And what do you? So what happens? So the question would be, because it's always that, of course, you didn't write that script. You had wonderful writers working for you at Deep Space Nine. But what is the? Why do you think was that possible, or is that still possible in Star Trek, to have such kind of like edgy subjects that you usually do not see on mainstream television?
I think that's why Roddenberry wrote it, right? I mean, that's what he set out to do, is, as he said, to create morality plays. And I mean, as silly as we can be, but we do get really real about this, is that he realized that there were issues in the world that needed addressing. And yet it's very difficult to have some of these issues discussed when they're just straight, right out in the open. He realized that one of the best ways to convey a message is through TV, through fiction, or through TV, film, literature, music. The allegories are really what touches our hearts. And so I think that's what he set out to do. So Deep Space Nine, I think, did a beautiful job of honoring Roddenberry's vision in terms of addressing issues of war and peace and family and race and the need for justice and the ability and duties that we have to take risks. And, oops, I said duty, I'm sorry. No, but really, I mean, he had an incredible vision for what the world could be and should be. And he wanted to convey that through stories. And what an honor to be able to be part of those stories and to give people hope for a better world and to kind of show how to lead the way, right?
Nothing to add?
I like what Chase said.
Wonderful, wonderful. But I mean, it's a delicate subject, and interestingly, there seem to be more debates about that kind of stuff in Europe or in Austria or Germany. And we had a talk about that before, because you were interviewed by one of the big Jewish cultural magazines in Vienna called Nu, and they interviewed you. And of course, they were very much interested in your backstory, that you're of Jewish heritage, that you grew up in Queens, and that there is this common perspective, or some people address that and saying, like, why is it that the Ferengis could be seen almost like a stereotypical, evil Nazi way of looking at capitalists or something like that. So there's a long debate about why do you create like the hyper-capitalist race in almost this like placative way that some people reminds of, like stereotypical ways of talking about Jews in Nazi Germany and Nazi Austria. Have you been talking to fans and stuff like that? Is this like a completely academic debate, or do you talk about that stuff with people? So are you being addressed about stuff like that?
No.
I'm very happy about that.
But I think you create the stereotype so you can knock it down. I mean, there's Quark, who to the last episode says, this is where I make my stand, you know, because they're changing. The Ferengi are changing, and the Grand Nagus names Rom as the new Grand Nagus. So
because it's from my perspective,
which comes from Moogie.
Rude, yeah.
Moogie has an influence on Moogie. Moogie has. Oh, you used that line before. It comes in handy. You knock down the stereotype. I think that's what happened to the Ferengi on Deep DS9.
Yeah,
does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it totally makes sense to me. It makes sense for me because, I mean, I know the plot line, and it's so wonderful to see that the Ferengi culture is a super hyper-capitalist, like, satire of humans, actually, and it's also very misogynist culture, and that changes over time. So I think it is one of the super great examples in the Star Trek universe where you actually see a development in the whole culture with a couple of examples of characters of that race exemplified how culture changes and how people change, and I really like that. Yeah.
Nog goes to Starfleet Academy.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so many changes.
Yeah. No, I found it interesting that sometimes I say like, hey, well, I know Max Grodenchik and he played the Ferengi and things. Like, oh, the Ferengis, that's the space Jews, aren't they? And like, Jesus Christ. This is a very, like, it's a very low key addressing like the Ferengis, I guess. It's why would you do that? But anyhow, okay.
But it is also, I think part of the reason that we love the Ferengi and all the characters really is because they are so human, and because we recognize ourselves in all of them. I recognized myself in the Ferengi and the Klingons and the Trill, and don't you? I mean, you know, they're the gentle-heartedness of Quark when you get right down to it. You know, he had just this wonderful sensitivity. What was the last thing? One of the last things he said in the last episode, that about his rival, Odo, that man loves me. You know, and it mattered to him. And you can think that you know something, or you can think that you've got somebody pegged down to their stereotype, but like Max said, I love when you just said that. I never heard it said quite that way. You create the stereotype to knock it down. And I think it's just one of the things that teaches us that you can't judge a book by its cover, and that every single one of us is more than we seem at first glance. And then it gives us hope that we'll be seen for more than we are showing at any moment. Don't we all long to really be seen for more than most people see us? You know, we want to be known and appreciated, and I think that seeing the depth of these characters helps us give us hope that we will be too seen. Right? Right? Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I think my spirit animal is Kultukat. That's my. Yeah, so it's really.
Well, that says a lot, then.
He's such a great character.
That's all we need to know about you, honey. That's all right.
And when you see the Ferengi in Next Generation, they're a device. You know, they're a device to further the plot. Now you have a series regular Ferengi, Quark, and there's some saying in cinema about once you get a close-up of a character, then you get to know him. You know, you see so much more. He's not just a stereotype. He becomes a living, breathing being.
Just like in real life. Right?
Sure.
You can't hate someone you know.
Well.
Right? But when you look deeply at someone and really know them and see things from their point of view with empathy.
But if you keep your distance from somebody, that allows you to hate them.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And that's why we have racism in the world. That's why we have xenophobia. That's why we have war, right? It's because people don't take the time and heart and energy or opportunity to know each other, and they other them. They make them other. They let them, they let themselves see each other as less human, right? But when you know somebody, why would you want to hurt them, right?
But that's a perfect segue into talking about your foundation.
Thank you.
It's really perfect because
I have more Ferengi jokes, but no.
We can incorporate them.
Okay, all right.
Because using your popularity, so to speak, that you got through Star Trek, you started a really, really interesting social foundation non-profit organization. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Thank you. Yes. So in 2013, I founded Pop Culture Hero Coalition, which is the first ever nonprofit organization to make a stand for real-life heroism over bullying, racism, misogyny, LGBTQI plus bullying, cyberbullying, and other forms of injustice, using stories from Star Trek and Star Wars and Harry Potter and other stories that kids and adults love. And I did it because I realized, well, for one thing, I was struck by the kindness of Star Trek fans. You know, when I was saying a while ago that my fan club became the largest private contributors to this charity for children with AIDS, and I can't tell you guys how often I would go to a convention in like the middle of nowhere, Midwest, whatever. There'd be 300 people, maybe 200 less than are in this room, but 30 of them would greet me at the airport in their Klingon wardrobe and hand me a check saying, we had a Klingon bake sale for your charity, or here we had a Klingon car wash, or some other kind of fundraiser.
I want a Klingon car wash. That's great.
I know, right?
I would get a car to have a Klingon car wash.
I know.
I get a car to go, and then I have a Klingon car wash.
We should do
where
that.
Where the Klingon is bigger than the car. But anyhow.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we should totally do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a plan. So no, but I was struck by the hearts of you guys and how Trek fans really do know how to make it a better world in real life and not just have it stop at the television show. And so I was thinking a lot about that, and I had some hard stuff happen in my own life where I was bullied badly. I had a stalker, actually. That was a very difficult situation, and I became very angry and depressed, and I was mentoring, I'll just tell you the whole story. I was mentoring kids coming out of gangs, like actual Crips and Bloods. And this was like half an hour from my house. And I started to realize the disparity of in the world, because when you go to a Star Trek convention or a Comic-Con on the weekends and you're celebrating this multi-billion-dollar property, and then the next day you're going, 45 minutes away where people live in a war zone, and I started to think, we're all just part of the birth lottery, and some of us end up on one end and some of us end up on the other. And how can we use these stories that we're celebrating on the weekends to make justice happen in real life? And I realized that that's what Roddenberry was standing for. So I thought, what can we do to meld these two worlds that I was going back and forth between? So, can I tell you the rest?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. I didn't mean to overtalk, but so here's where it gets really good. So I heard about a little girl named Katie who was bullied for carrying her Star Wars lunchbox to school. Some of you might recognize this story. May the Force be with Katie. Katie, the Star Wars girl. So Katie was bullied because she was a girl loving Star Wars, and all the boys would follow her around saying, "You can't like Star Wars, you're a girl." Well, she went home and she cried to her mom, Carrie, saying, "Mom, I just want to carry my pink lunchbox, that's it." And her mom said, "Katie, you get to be you. Don't ever let anybody tell you who to be." But Katie was very upset, so her mom, Carrie, put out a post on her blog saying, if anybody out there has been bullied or gender bullied, could you please say a few encouraging words to my daughter? Well, thousands and thousands of people responded. Huffington Post picked up the blog. It went viral. Thousands of us responded. I was just one of the people who said, Katie, I'm a woman. I love science fiction. I love Star Trek. I love Star Wars. You get to be who you are. And so we kept in touch, and I got to be friends with them. And I put Carrie, the mom, decided to write a book on ending bullying, and so she interviewed me for the book, and she asked me for actor friends to interview, and so I put her in touch with my friend Peter Mayhew, who played Chewbacca. So now little Katie, who's bullied in first grade, is friends with the real Chewbacca. Don't fuck with us. Sorry.
That's all true.
So Carrie asked me, Carrie's book came out by HarperCollins. It was a great book, it won awards, and she asked me to help her get her book into Comic-Con, San Diego. And that's when it all came together. And I thought of these kids I was mentoring, and I thought of the crowds at Comic-Con, and I thought of the messages through Star Trek, and I said, yes, but let's do more. Let's form a coalition and get every fan of Star Trek and Star Wars and all of the rest of it, the Avengers, everything, and make a stand for the kind of justice that we love on screen, make that stand in real life. So I got off the phone with her, and I was like, oh no, what do I do now? How do I do this? So I thought, what do you want to do if you want to form a coalition? What do you do? Who do you need? Okay, the United Nations. So I called, as you do. So I looked up the number. Okay. So I looked up the number for the United Nations online, and I called them cold. And somehow I got on the phone with the president.
Butrus Gali. No.
Wait, what? No, not him. But anyway, I'll just tell you this real fast. So I got on the phone with the president of the UN Association San Diego, and I said, hi, this is Chase Masterson from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and I'm doing a coalition to end bullying, and you guys do that, right? With countries.
I mean, at least they try.
Right? And so I said, we're going to Comic-Con. Would you like to join us? And she said, oh my God, we've always wanted to go to Comic-Con. So they were our first partner. And since then, we've brought Amnesty International, the United Nations proper in New York, the No Hate campaign, and many other social justice organizations to their very first Comic-Con, making an intersection between social justice on screen and social justice in real life. Thank you. Thanks.
So, could you tell the guys the URL of your website so
yes.
they can go there?
Yes. So I'll just tell you real fast. So that was in 2013. Now, 6 years later, we have programs in schools in different cities in America, and we actually piloted our program at a UNESCO school here in Vienna through a teacher that I met at Vienna Comic-Con. So we have programs in schools actually using Star Trek and Star Wars and the Avengers and Supergirl and all the rest of it to teach kids kindness and ending bullying and how to have healthy identity so that they don't want to bully each other. And we have a 32 lesson plan curriculum that really gets into the heart of why people do the things they do and how to make it a better world. And our website is popculturehero.org, and shamelessly, our social media is @superheroIRL. So @superhero IRL for in real life.
Ooh. Ooh.
Thanks.
Max, are you a superhero in real life?
You are to me, Max.
Thank you, Chase.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, but
you mean I don't know what you mean.
But I mean, talking about, for example, have you in some way supported Chase in some way, or do you do something together for your coalition, or is there some kind of...
We took a picture with T-shirts.
Yes.
And William Shatner was in that picture.
Oh, fuck.
Yes.
So,
Oh, my God.
Yes, William Shatner.
I have to ask you something about Shatner later on, but...
how did you get William Shatner to put on a T-shirt?
I know, right?
How does it fit?
No, we've had...
I'm just totally bullying you now.
that is bullying, I was going to say. No, Shatner, Bill has been very...
William Shatner does not talk to me.
Really?
Now, William Shatner is so strange because sometimes you think, like, because I'm following him on Twitter, sometimes he says really interesting stuff, and the next time you think, like, geez, please shut up. He's a weird character.
Well, look, if you had been on, like, the most popular television show of all time for the last 50 years, it might do something to you too. I mean, I don't know. I think he had immense success when he was very young, and then he's been able to reinvent himself in so many ways.
That's
takes
true.
a certain kind of personality. He's a really nice man, actually. I think he just gets overwhelmed like anybody.
No, I'm going to try to. I'm going to ask him to put on a T-shirt and see if he talks to me.
Do it. Have what? Moogie. Say it. You say it.
Now?
Okay.
Moogie.
Nice.
So proud.
Do it the walk. Do the walk. Do the walk.
Oh, come on.
We want him to do the walk, right? Do the walk. Do the walk.
I did not make him do it.
Do the walk.
Can you hear me in the back? Yes. Chase wants me to do this walk, which is Rom's walk, which is the walk, because Rom is always a little afraid of what if his brother is going to be mean to him. So it's the walk of somebody who wants to catch up to somebody else, but doesn't want to frighten them. So
Thank you.
This is great. This should be the next VHS course, like acting classes with Max Grodenchik. You know? Yeah, really.
It's okay.
If you want to do that, acting classes with Max Grodenchik, spam them, send them 1 million emails. They should do it. Yeah, really.
So proud. I'm so proud. So stolz bin ich auf mich.
I adore him. I just do.
What else?
You know, can I tell you something that Ira told us about Ram and Leeta? He said that he wanted, this was before we got together, this was like in the 5th season, and he said that he wanted us to be the example of a happy couple on television. And when you think about it, at least back then, there weren't really many happy couples, but he wanted to prove that a couple could be happy and still interesting. And when you think about it, aren't most couples plagued by something, whether it's always cheating or divorce or anger or addiction or something, right? But Leeta and Ram didn't have any of that, and we still were interesting, right?
That's true. There was an episode about Ram would have to you would have to be more, love would have to be more important to Ram than Latinum.
Right, because I wouldn't sign a prenup.
Yeah. That was a very interesting episode for me. Yeah.
Right. Lots of good stuff. No, the Ferengi they have wonderful lessons. And teaching Quark how to be a woman, I mean, come on. Right? The best. Doesn't get any better than that.
And also, like, a wonderful episode in Deep Space Nine is, like, I think one of the best episodes that was ever made in the Star Trek universe is when they are actually like they break pretty much the fourth wall and go back in the 1950s in 1950s America.
Far beyond the stars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Such a wonderful episode where Cisco plays pretty much like the black science fiction author who wants to write about a future space station where there is a black captain and everything, and they won't let him do it because of racism in 1950s America. Such a wonderful episode.
Truly.
You know, sometimes we just did just good storytelling, you know? Writing, producing, acting, directing.
The writers were incredible, and I think that where they've gone through since Deep Space Nine is as an extra testament to that. I mean, we know that DS9 had beautiful writing, really powerful. But then when you look at what they've done, I mean, Ron Moore went on to do, right after that he wrote for The Dead Zone, but then Battlestar, and then Outlander, which is very popular, and then Ira having done the 4400, which he was nominated for an Emmy, I think, and then you know, Crash, and a lot of other really good television. David Weddell and Bradley Thompson have gone to do, just all of them are working all the time on television that we still love. Mm-hmm. We were really lucky, really blessed to have such an incredible group of writers.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy.
Are you happy?
On the consumer level, I'm very happy that Deep Space Nine existed. It was really, really important, I think, also for me growing up in that time and seeing that and seeing like for the first time ever in the Star Trek universe, you had something like an over time developing plot arc that is pretty much like 7 seasons long, which did not exist before that, and which really brings you into the characters. It brings you deep into the culture. I mean, there's hardly any better developed, like all the cultures that are on Deep Space Nine are incredibly rich because you return to them, the Bajorans, the Cardassians. You learn so much about the good and the bad, and I still hate the Win. What was the name of the Win?
Kaiwin?
Kaiwin, horrible. But the good thing is, like, if you really hate someone on like a character on a show, or if you really like, it's such a wonderful. There's this great term called emotional machine. Like movies and films are emotional machines. If they're well crafted and if they're well designed, they bring you into a headspace and into an emotional space where you can really relate to the characters, where you can deeply hate something, deeply love something, and get into it. And I think the testament is that so many people still love Star Trek in all of its facets out there. So I would like to open up the stage to questions from the audience, because I've said enough, way too much anyways.
Did we talk about technology?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Can we also, I want to make sure that we talk about...
You put out a list. You gave me a list of the list of the things to talk about.
You told me don't
did,
ask me anything about technology, and don't talk to me about politics.
Yeah. Yeah, I said don't. I wanted to know what you were gonna, but but we skipped around a little bit.
Okay. One question for you before we go to the audience.
Don't give me a technology question.
Please, Max, tell me about your relationship to technology.
Oh my God.
I know that all your emails are in all caps. I know that.
Max, don't you still have a flip phone? Okay.
That's not true.
Okay.
That's not true. My only relationship to technology is that my nephew, who is in gymnasium and wants the latest, greatest phone, gets that phone from his father. Because his father loves him, you know. His father, he gets a new, so my nephew gets a new phone, and the old phone goes to his father. The father's old phone goes to my wife, and my wife's old phone goes to me. I have it here somewhere. And true. It's true. And I hope he keeps getting new phones forever. That would be, that's good for me.
But I think in a certain way, if it works, it works. I mean, technology is only obsolete if it doesn't work. If it works for you, it's perfect.
Works great
Whatever,
for me, yeah.
I mean, I still use my same email program that I installed in 1997. I still use Eudora. And I have my entire mail base since 1997 on my computer. And I still use it, and I would never want to change it to anything else. So I'm totally fine with that. I agree. Thank you. You are way more tech savvy because the whole thing with the coalition and all the stuff that you're doing, you're communicating like 24/7. It's incredible how fast you respond to emails and do things and stuff. But I think that's the activist in you, I guess. That
I'm just tied to my computer because we have a very small team, is what it is. I mean, we have no employees for the coalition. We have all volunteers. All of my work is volunteer since 2013. I've never made a dime on it. And so what we have to do is we have to keep working really hard so that we can grow it, so that we can hire people. And that's why, yeah, I guess I just...
Yeah. There will actually be a possibility for you to support the coalition because we have wonderfully printed autograph cards only for today. We only have like 100 or something like that. And if you want autographs from our wonderful guests here, you can actually get the autograph, but you have to donate a little bit to the foundation. So,
thank you.
So that's semi-capitalist.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So,
love your support.
But now let's open up questions to the audience, please. No. Oh.
Ja,
of course,
vielleicht.
Ja. Wenn ihr euch nicht so leicht tut auf Englisch, bitte auf Deutsch und ich übersetze einfach auf Englisch, das ist überhaupt kein Problem.
Könnt auf Deutsch und auf Englisch fragen, wie ihr wollt.
Okay, if I see things right, the few guys, we will never fly to space, but the lady knows how to use the technological thing, so we would fly with her to space.
Girl power.
I wouldn't even drive with me if I would drive the car. So it's, I'm waiting for self-driving cars because they were way more safe than I am. So
Do you have a driving license?
Führerschein. Do you have a driver's license?
I have.
Yeah. No, I was just...
I have a driver's license. Interestingly, in the meantime, I'm allowed, because I have Aunt B, I have a motorcycle and car, yeah? And in the meantime, because I just have it for such a long time, I can ride the biggest motorcycles there are, although I've never been on a motorcycle after I did my driver's license. So take
the
that. The
biggest motorcycles there are.
Yeah, yeah. It's like this, like Kubik, whatever. I have no idea. I can have all the Kubik. I can.
Okay. I guess that's a guy thing, right?
Yeah.
Who has a question? Oh, yeah.
I reckon that you get like lots of stories from the audience of consumers on how the series changed their lives. And I just wanted to ask whether you can share some of those third-party stories so that we can also relate to that and so that we can see that the series actually had a huge impact in the lives of plenty of people.
Thank you. So state the question again.
Did any consumers, did any fans tell you stories about how the show changed their lives?
Yes.
That you remember, and I reckon there's like plenty of them. But
yes,
probably
yeah,
you can
okay,
share
sorry, yes.
some of those that you really remember at the bottom of your heart.
Do you want to take that first, Max? I would love to say.
That goes to both of you, no worries.
I just remember Aaron Eisenberg, and who played Nog, and I were in Denver, and two guys came up to us and they said, to our signing table, and we signed some stuff for them. And the guys said that they had a debt undetonate. I don't know what the word is. Not even in English do I know what the word is. They detonate. They got rid of landmines. It was very intense work.
Wow.
And they said at the end of the day, when they came back to their quarters where they were, they would put on DS9, and that's what they used to decompress. It was really, and Aaron and I looked at each other. Wow, how lucky are we? You know. So, anyway, that's my.
I've been wanting to. It just didn't come up, but I've been wanting to bring up Aaron and to say how much we miss you, Aaron, and we are looking up to heaven. And losing Aaron was an unspeakable loss. He was wonderful, and it isn't really real to us. I don't know if it ever will be. In some ways, I hope not, because it's just too much. But Aaron was incredible. He was so pure-hearted and so truly grateful and so enthusiastic about everything good in his life, and that at the head of that was Star Trek, and his amazing wife Melissa. She's a very dear friend to all of us, and so words cannot describe how much we will miss him and how much respect and love we have for him. He really loved you guys, really, so much. So thank you.
We just saw him in Las Vegas right before he,
yeah,
passed. And he seemed so healthy, and
yeah.
And then so.
It's so tragic because in the documentary about Deep Space Nine, he dies, and
he was very upset about that, by the way.
And
he was not pleased.
And that was just like released like just a couple of months ago, and suddenly, this is really super tragic. Yeah.
How many of you guys have seen the DS9 doc? What we left behind. If you haven't, I would urge you to. It's such an incredibly beautiful piece of work. And two things. Aaron really shines in it because he got to say how much playing Nog, being Nog, meant to him, and how much Nog's journey of joining Starfleet and losing a limb and becoming brave enough to leave the holosuite, and just everything that Nog went through, and the fans' reaction to that, and how you touched his life. He really got to say that straight out there. And those moments, when we saw it, I had to rush up to him that night and just say, "You were amazing." And that was the first thing I really wanted to say about the documentary. Anyway, it was incredible. And it's a beautiful doc. The second thing I want to say is, Max, you're amazing in that doc. Max shines so beautifully. You've got, right? Those of you who've seen it, right? Isn't Max wonderful?
What are you saying about me?
The documentary.
Oh, I'm singing.
You have the opening part in documentary. The documentary starts with you singing.
Wasn't supposed to be that way. It was supposed to be.
I'm glad it happened.
Andy Robinson was supposed to do it. What? Andy Robinson was supposed to start.
I know your face. Yeah.
We're just boring, I guess. No, sorry. Anyway, I want to answer that question too. May I?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Like Max said, I've also met those guys, and they have told us that when they were on a mission, when DS9 was on the air, that they would come back to camp, and the first thing they would do before they took a shower or went to sleep or anything would be, if there was a new episode of Deep Space Nine on, they would watch it together, because it was great TV, but also because it reminded them of home. And it reminded them of what they were fighting for, standing for, clearing those minds for, which was peace. And just stories like that. I have one more. There's a woman named Carrie who lives in Seattle who came to the Las Vegas convention a few years ago, and there was a crowd of about 5,000 people. And at the Deep Space Nine panel, and she stood up for the Q&A, and she told us how grateful she was for this show because it helped give her hope when her fiancé died by suicide, and it helped her want to live. And we were blown away. And Laura Baer, Ira's wife, and I were like, you here, you're ours, come here. And we just hugged her for the rest of the weekend. And she sat with us and went around with us, and she's still a dear friend. And we have another friend named Scott Palm. Hi, I love you. Scott Palm is a man in Seattle also who is paralyzed with cerebral palsy. And he's had 13 operations, and he credits Star Trek with getting him through, with giving him the hope to have the will to live. Well, so I got to put Carrie in touch with Scott, so she's his best friend now, because they both live in Seattle. And Scott is now doing a program for the Coalition called Heroic, which stands for Healing, Empathy, and Resilience for Orthopedically Impaired Children. And he's going to schools. Even though he's paralyzed, he does a program where he speaks like Stephen Hawking and talks to children with disabilities about resilience. So when you hear those stories, you think, oh my gosh, what an honor to be on a show that does this.
Yeah, hello. I have a question. What are your upcoming programs? What are your bringing up new films or playing in television shows or something like that? I know you did a movie with Johannes, Chase, right here in Austria, and Max is his latest project, Strawberry Moments, which is right now playing in the cinemas in Austria. And I want to ask you about new projects and what you're planning to do. And I'm very pleased to see you on C-Track again.
Look at that.
Thank you. Nice.
I carry the flyer around with me. Because it is one of 16 films that is being considered for the Austrian Film Awards. Yeah. Yeah. Is that correct? Was that Manuel? That's a correct statement, right? So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Just saying. I'm just saying. And I think I've seen the film, and I think it's extremely well done. I can honestly say that. So.
Who do you play?
I play myself.
Oh.
You think that's easy?
No. What a great role.
A lot of people auditioned for the role of Max Grodenchik.
I'm sure.
But I got it.
I'm
so proud. So proud.
Proud of you, Max.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I mean, just two lines. It was really super to work with you, I have to say.
Thank you.
So the story is not to use too much time for that, but hopefully the film will be out in the springtime, premiere in Austria. It's a film. So Chase is actually the main character in the film, and she is a self-driving cab. So her voice it's a voice performance, and the elevator pitch would be: it is a mafia guy gets into a self-driving car with a suitcase full of cash, and he has to deliver that money to some other mafia guys who are completely frustrated because he could just like send bitcoins. Why is he coming with a suitcase full of money? This is so old school. But anyhow, he takes the self-driving car to meet the other guys, and he dies in the car, and you as the car have an epiphany and you decide to flee with the money.
What is the name of this?
It's called Je suis auto.
It's a wonderful piece of work, and I do mean piece of work. You know, Johannes. I met Johannes through Max, So that's all involved here. And Johannes is the lead in the film, and he's wonderful, and it's a fun...
You're the lead.
You're the lead. You're the lead. So it's a wonderful, whimsical script, and I was really proud and excited to do it. And I'm just voiceover. I don't actually play the car. But...
it's a great car. It's a sound.
I'm excited about it. And a couple other new projects. One is called Manipulated, and another is called Skipping Stones to Madonna. And if I could just tell you real fast, do you guys know Big Finish? Big Finish? Okay, so it's audio adventures of Doctor Who and other shows. And it's just audio, but what's wonderful about it is you can have big epic stories without having a studio spend $300 million. They're great stories with all the original Doctor Who actors. And so I got to do those, and I should put you in touch. They would love you. I played opposite Sylvester McCoy, who was the 7th Doctor, and Tom Baker, who was the 4th Doctor, and then my character was given her own spin-off, and that character is called Vienna. My name is Vienna. Yeah, so I have a show. Yeah. So look up, seriously, look up Vienna, Big Finish. And it's really wonderful because, I just have to tell you, Vienna is an impossibly glamorous, mercenary assassin with a heart of gold who always lands on the side of good. And she's very dorky. Like, she's really like if do you know Seinfeld, right? Okay, so like if Elaine from Seinfeld and La Femme Nikita assassin had a baby.
Oh.
She's like this dorky assassin. Anyway, it's fun. It's very fun stuff. And because it's Vienna now, it's called Vienna, you have to watch it. Listen to it.
Just statistics. How many of you would consider yourself a Doctor Who fan and a Star Trek fan? Not bad. Not bad. Okay, there is a question in the back. Yeah.
Question from Max. When you played Rom, and he was pictured as a little bit silly, stupid, and clumsy.
What did you say?
Wait a minute.
That's your opinion. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, my opinion in the first place. But later I see how that character develops, and I see how much talent, how much. How should I put this? How much more he is than at the start, and still is viewed by other characters in the shows for so little sometimes. How did you feel about that?
I'm okay.
You're the Grand Nagus.
Yeah, I'm the Grand Nagus. I'm the Grand Nagus of the Ferengi Empire. My very first convention ever was in Leicester, England, and 1993, and a kid in the audience, maybe about your age, said, "Max, how does it feel to be the super wuss of the entire universe?" And I didn't know what to say, and then I felt I had to defend Rom, so I said, "Would you like to go outside and say that?" Step outside. I think Rom is very respected as the series goes on and on. That's really my real answer. I think he's very, very respected as things go on and on DS9. So,
especially when you like Bar Association. I say it again. Such a wonderful episode.
It gives us hope that you too can be the Grand Nagus. Seriously, if you're feeling like you're we all feel like that, right? We're the kid runt brother. We can be the Grand Nagus.
Why not? Yeah.
So can I?
I did like when Ram gets on the night shift of the Bajoran maintenance crew and he tastes the Ractagino. You have Ractagino. We don't and he's so amazed. He feels like he's been promoted, to the highest possible office. Ractagino? You guys get to drink Ractagino? And he just loves Ractagino. I think I'll stick around.
Thank you.
So,
hi. First of all, I'm very excited to be here. I don't know how to feel for you. For me, you're bigger than Jesus for me, actually. The development of your character was a shining light in my life. Yeah, actually, the entire series was a shining light for me and for my personal development. And I feel very privileged to be in the same room with you, and I think that's something that most of the people here are feeling, and I'm really glad to have this opportunity. And well, my question is, Deep Space Nine was the first series that actually went inside my head and my soul, and that really made me the person I am today, that made me grow, that made me think about things. And there, well, as you said, there are many more series came up, or movies that touched people. For example, for me, Battlestar Galactica, the new thing, the new release was a series that kept on or carried on the spirit that Deep Space Nine had. What series would you recommend after Star Trek? Yeah, so that's my question. Yeah.
Okay. That's a good question. Yes. What have you seen lately, and what do you like?
Have you seen the Orville?
The Orville.
Have you seen what? The Orville.
I do know the Orville.
Yeah?
It just so happens that I know the Orville. Yeah, those guys.
Shouldn't we be on the Orville? Yeah. Okay, I'm going to make a GIF of that.
But yeah, so any recommendations, so to speak? I hear like a recommendation request.
For science fiction shows, for
whatever.
Something that touched your soul, make you feel.
I feel I'm going to be so. When I say what I like, I feel everybody's going to go, yeah.
Do it. Come on.
There's a show called. There's a show called. There's a show called This Is Us. Yeah, and the son found his father. That whole season when the son was getting went to find his father and found him, and I don't know the name of that actor who played the father, but I just thought that was just brilliant television. It just made me cry every time they were together, and this is. I know it's a highly rated show in the States. I don't know how it is here. I think it's won awards in the States too, Emmys. This Is Us comes to mind.
Oh, geez. I don't watch very much television.
A movie or something, or maybe even a book or something.
Just working.
That sounds so sad.
No, it does. It really sounds really sad. It really is true. I mean, I'm not a huge binge watcher of anything just because time and energy. I really like The Good Place. I think it's a really fun, sweet show. I think Michael Schur he's a wonderful writer. And I do like Discovery. Do you like Discovery? No?
Oh. We'll have fist fights in here. We'll have fist fights if we start discussing Discovery.
So you don't like me anymore? No. Okay. No. I think it has some really good points going for it. I think it can be confusing at times, but I have liked some of that. I just figured I'd bring that up. And the other thing I really watch, if I'm going to sit down and watch something, is I watch TED Talks. Do you guys watch TED? Yeah. I love TED Talks. Is Marcus here? Where's Marcus? Marcus? Where are you? Oh, my speaker liaison, I got to do a TED Talk in Vienna about 3 weeks ago, and it was one of the highlights it was one of the highlights of my whole life. It just was a real career highlight, and Marcus was my speaker liaison. And if you ever get to go to TED Vienna, it's an electric experience, just incredible speakers and wisdom and fun. It was wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Marcus.
I would say maybe like another question or two, but we are probably already way over time. Okay.
Hello, yes, here.
Ah, there you are.
A question for both of you. If you were offered the chance to reprise your roles, would you do it? And the more interesting follow-up question would be, what would have happened to your characters to not reprise it?
To what?
What would have happened to our...
If you were offered to do the roles again that you did in Star Trek.
And what would have happened to our characters?
Yes, that you would say no to that offer.
Oh, if we had said no. What would have had to happen?
Well,
what would it cost us?
If they called me right now and said, we want you back on DS9, I would do it for nothing. I'd say, yeah, sign me up. It was a great job. That was my job, to play Rom. Before that, I was working in an office, and I was soaking the beans at Taco Bell. This was and then I got to play Rom. So, sign me up. And what was the second half of that?
If they said, you can play Rom again, and you would do it, and suddenly they would make a total character change, and, for example, made him real bad, and I don't know, something really bad would have happened to the character. Would you still say, okay, I'm playing him, or would you say, no, thank you?
It would really depend on the writing.
I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. What would that be?
It's hard to talk in generalities about it, because it comes down to how the writing affects me playing it, and maybe the worst thing would work. Maybe something that looked bad to you would actually work out, and maybe something that looked good to me would not. So it's hard. You'd have to have something written and see it, but. I would really be, but if you write something, let me know. Yeah, I would really be interested.
All right.
In a heartbeat, I would in a heartbeat. But, we already have gotten to reprise our characters on Star Trek Online. Do you guys play the game? Yeah. Star Trek Online? And, is that Christian? Christian? No. Oh, it's somebody else. Okay, sorry. I was looking for my friend. Christian, where are you?
Another one.
Hi.
There.
Hi, my friend. All right, so anyway, bottom line is, yes, these are, if they were to do something horrible to ruin our characters' legacies, I think that would be really horrible. I wouldn't want to do that, because I think at this point we've left meaning something to you guys. If they were to ruin that and we were to get all like Captain Lorca on you guys, then that would be really bad. I would not want that.
I want to see Leeta Lorca. That's great. But that's a good question. What would be the shadow world, like the
Well, okay, so in Star Trek Online,
the evil version of Leeta. Wow.
So in Star Trek Online, I do play Mirror Leeta. Yeah. Remember that horrible episode where I was like, "Who are you?" in Deep Space Nine and in the Mirror Universe. Well, that Leeta is now the leader of the Terran Empire, she's horrible, and like she would eat the Borg Queen for breakfast. But it's fun because then I get to go back and be hollow Leeta and regular Leeta, and the difference is, you know, obviously huge, and that's fun, right? It just depends on what you get to say with a role.
The bad people are like super good for acting. It's like perfect to play the bad guy, I guess. Huh?
It's fun. You just don't want to ruin your legacy, you know. And we don't want to take too long. You guys have been such an amazing audience.
If I may,
let's do one more. Let's do one more, and then we will do our wonderful autograph session. And during the autograph session, where you hopefully will donate some money,
okay,
you can maybe
come
ask
up. I'll give
some
you a
more
card.
Questions.
Anyway, yeah.
Sell it to you.
Well, first of all, a little comment. I really appreciate your coalition, because I'm a former victim of bullying myself at school. I even produced a short film about these events, and thank you very much for doing it.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you. That means so much to me. And I want to say this is one of the most important things I could say in general, is that first, I am sorry that you were bullied. And I want anyone, absolutely, and I want anyone to know here that if you were bullied, it was never your fault. When someone is mean to you, if that has happened, it's never about the victim of the bullying. It's always about who the bully is, right? Indeed. It never has anything to do with you. I don't care if, really, I mean, I don't care if somebody weighs 800 pounds. If someone calls them fat, it's not about being fat. It's because that person is being an asshole, right? Excuse me, but it's true. So we need to really get that conversation in our heads, and it's the hardest thing to do, to separate pain from what is real. But what is real is that you deserve kindness, and you deserve respect and justice and goodness and friends and love. And the fact that you love Star Trek is, you know, it's just, it tells me a lot about who you guys are. This is a show that matters because it says good things. So I guess I could close just by saying thank you for who you are and what you've brought to us tonight, and what you bring to the world by believing in a show that speaks of a better future. And it really has touched me and surprised me once again to see so many people out here, and it just means the world to me. And thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Just two quick questions, if I may. Yeah. Just two very quick questions, if I may. First of all, if you've read the relaunch novels, what do you think of how your characters were developed further? And the other is, did you ever watch DS9 in any other languages, like in German?
Have you watched it in German? I've heard the German Leeta. I like her. I haven't watched the whole show or anything. As far as the novels go, I hear Leeta and Rom, we have a baby now. And I wonder, I've heard we do. And what is that like? Cleavage with ears? I mean, I just don't know what that would be like. That scares me a little. But yes, I'm glad there are novels. I'm glad we have a life beyond the show. What do you think, Max?
I have watched Next Generation in German subtitles to help me verbessern mein Deutsch. Mein Deutsch verbessern.
Now you can speak in perfect technobabble.
And what was the other part of that question?
Have you the novels? Do you know about what's going on with them? Have you read any of the novels?
No. I only know a little bit of. Armin wrote a novel called The 34th Rule, and I have read a bunch of that. I've read a bit of that. Yes, that's all. Because it was Armin's. Yeah. Did you write one? Have you written a novel? No. Not yet. I look forward to it.
You know what? I'm sorry, I just have to say, do you know Max's music? Yes. Max is the best songwriter. Yes. Max is, yeah, right?
Max,
you're a phenomenal songwriter.
The grand finale would now be that you try at least a cappella to sing something for us. Would you? Would you? And I don't care about copyright, just like pick whatever you want.
Starship, or you can sing something?
No, I should sing something in German, I think.
In German?
I'll try to, I don't know if I remember it, but here it goes. Bei dem Casino, gleich hinter der Bar, steht ein kleiner Barmann aus Ferengenhaar. Schaut die Dabo-Mädchen an. Fragt sich wie und fragt sich wann, wird mit Leeta gehen. Will mit Leeta gehen. Sein gemeiner Bruder schreit ihn immer an. Du hast so viel Arbeit und du hast nichts getan. Er kann nicht hören, er denkt an sie und fragt sich wieder, wann und wie wird mit Leeta gehen. Er will mit Leeta gehen. Eines schönen Abends hat Leeta Durst. Rom versteht die Lage, jetzt geht es um die Wurst. Wenn ein kaltes Rootbier bringt, dann lächelt sie und wenn sie trinkt, sie will mit ihm losgehen, sie will mit ihm losgehen. Jetzt sind sie zusammen auf Ferengenhaar, verliebt, verheiratet, eine Liebe echt und wahr. Oh, und wenn sie nicht gestorben sind, dann leben sie noch heute mit Kind. Und so ist es geschehen, und so ist es geschehen. Wer hätte gedacht, dass so ein Mann die schöne Leeta haben kann? So ist es geschehen, und so ist es geschehen. Like that.